Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of No Homo. I am Philip, one of your hosts, and I am joined by my wonderful host with the most, Brandon. And we are excited to actually do two episodes with you today. You can see we didn't change; we're in the same attire. But our earlier episode was about just a review, spoiler included review, all things about the Black Panther 2 film and what we thought of it, we liked, and things and so on. So if you haven't checked that out, first watch the movie if you haven't, because we are going to be talking about spoilers. But if you have, check it out. Please add any comments, likes, mentions that you kind of receive and want to share about the movie. But today we're going to talk about a more serious subject, and it is involving the recent story that is about the young lady Shanquella Robinson, who was a young lady who went on a vacation trip to Mexico with some friends on October the 28th, and she did not come back alive. So for whatever reason, she passed there. This is going to be talking about areas around someone not living. So I want to just put that out there as like a trigger warning for anyone that may have sensitivities around that. Also, a little bit about violence and abuse. But Brandon and I also wanted to kind of use this as a way to talk about friends and friendships and just kind of having that conversation on a deeper level. But I wanted to just forewarn anyone who may be sensitive about just the story as a whole and kind of what happened to this beautiful young lady. So I will just kind of start off with just reading the story, just so for anyone that's out there that isn't 100% familiar or familiar at all, at least we'll give you some kind of premise and context. So this is from Essence Magazine on November the 16th. And it says the family of a 25-year-old North Carolina woman, Shanquella Robinson, is looking for answers after Robinson died while on a vacation in Mexico. Her parents say she went to Cabo with a group of friends on October 28th, but she never returned home. I spoke with her Friday evening. This is what her quote from her mother. She was having dinner and I never spoke with her again. And her mother, Salamandra Robinson, told reporters on Saturday evening, her friends called and she wasn't feeling well. And they said she wasn't feeling well and they were going to call a doctor. And when they called, the doctor hadn't arrived yet, but they said that she had alcohol poisoning. So her parents were skeptical about her daughter dying of alcohol poisoning, and a recent video helps to support their concerns. So there's also a video that was released that shows Robinson being brutally beaten by another woman in a bedroom, or at least in a hotel room. After Robinson fell to the ground, the woman pounded her fist on Robinson's head while somebody in the background was encouraging Robin to fight her assailant. A death certificate lists the cause of death as a severe spinal cord injury. It did not reference any signs of intoxication, contrary to the statements of those that spoke to Robinson's mom. Per Salamandra, the victim's mother, the other attendees of the trip didn't call us until the very last minute. And then on top of that, they said the maid found her. Her suspicions were raised when they reportedly gave her conflicting accounts of what happened, each of the different people. So now the State Department is aware of the incident, and also the FBI is now investigating. So wanted to just kind of open with that. It's a very, very, very sad thing to hear, especially with a lot of Black people, from what I've seen, losing their lives going to different trips over the past couple years. I know there was quite a few people who had passed going to the Dominican Republic. That was something that happened that I heard quite a few stories about in some other places too. But I'm going to turn over, Brandon, what are your thoughts regarding the story and kind of how did you feel when you heard about it?
Okay. So that's a lot. I'm just gonna start there. I think that the context from when I first received the story was from a friend who like it kind of same predicament in a way. Well, I don't know if they actually got along prior to the vacation, but I happen to have a large friend group, and everybody does not get along. Everybody does not get along sometimes and different things like that. And she brought up the story one because it was like the trending news, but also that she's like, this is exactly why if I say no to a vacation or different things because the friends that we all hang out with do not have the same value of care for her or care to
Mm,
like really I think be around her in that aspect that she will always say no knowing the details of the story now, it's something that I think we all should be, I think, a little bit just more aware of. I think it's just really being aware of your surroundings and a safety measure when, you kind of think about it at the end of the day, like if I don't want to go anywhere with you in town, I probably wouldn't want to go anywhere with you like in another country in that aspect. But that's if I don't there's no like, speculation that they actually had issues or anything like that beforehand. But I'm also thinking to myself, like, what could it possibly be that you decided to, or there was an issue that you attack someone like this and kill them, like
mm,
initially, like, and as friends, there's a deeper regard to life for one another as one, we're bounded by friendship and our relationship is supposed to be of safety, of love, of different things like that. And this sounds like it just fell all out the window. So it's like, what happened? Why did it happen? And how did this just come about? You know what I'm saying? That's why I think I'm kind of like my head is like at the moment, like what could have possibly like how did they end up in this situation or that even happening to that poor girl? Like there's no way, even with them being in a group of friends, none of them could say like we're bigger than this, or you're not going to hit her, like whether you're mad or not. Like it's just like there's no like, regard for anyone in that moment. So I mean, it's it's disturbing. It's disturbing to say the least, especially within the context of friendship. Like we are out of town, we are here to have a good time. Like, come on, how does this happen? Like how?
yeah. I think it's also to the point of saying that the word friend can't be easily
Mm,
applied, you know.
mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and even with people that you feel like you've known for a long time.
mhm,
I know people or I've known people who I may have known for years, but there was always this kind of, I don't know, animosity, this competitive, this, and I'm not saying it's all of that. I'm just saying it could just be kind of a variety of those things. Whereas you like a person, you hang out with them, you're in proximity to them, but you know that you can't necessarily like relax your guard 100% around them. And um, I don't know where that comes from,
mhm,
but we honestly aren't able to um, say that everyone is our friend and
mhm,
that we certainly can be in vulnerable. I feel like vacationing is being in a very vulnerable position, right?
mhm,
Because you're
mhm.
in a place where you are not familiar. You
Yeah.
have a limit. You have, you don't have access to all of your money or all of your clothes or all,
Right. Mhm,
maybe transportation, your
mhm,
home. Like you don't have access to any of that,
mhm,
And if you were to lose a cell phone or especially if you're out the country, like there really is not, it's not going to be easy for people to get to you. Like they can't drive and get to you.
mhm,
So I feel like and then you're sleeping in areas that, even if it's a hotel, is not familiar to you. Anything could
mhm,
happen. So
mhm.
you're going to restaurants where you're not familiar with the food or the water or the alcohol or even the
Yeah.
language. I
Mhm,
mean, it's exciting to go out. It's exciting to travel, but you have to realize that people get harmed in many ways on vacations.
mhm,
So yeah, it's unfortunate. I hate that they okay, let's just, I mean, again, we don't know exactly what happened, but if
mhm,
these friends knew what happened or were any way involved, even unintentional, like not with it being unintentional, right? For them to go to her mother and
mhm,
not be honest, I
mhm,
feel was very like hurtful to do because you have a mother, her daughter wasn't ill or had a condition or anything that would signal for her not to be healthy and well to come back home.
Mhm.
She went on vacation like people do all the time, and she didn't come back. And it was sudden,
Mhm.
and then to go to her mother and give her all these different stories that didn't make any sense. Like,
Mhm.
I think that was just really another layer of just insensitive cruelty to do to her family after
Mhm.
being aware that this friend didn't survive the
Mhm.
trip.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just, I mean, and I know that a lot of that comes from, like, I think just pure selfishness and not wanting to um be blamed for anything, or even if that, I mean, we don't know, but if there was some incident that happened after that fight or anything like that, to even
Mhm.
have that conversation and things like that. I know that probably would be hard for anybody to do, but at the end of the day, like, she, like, your friend, or even if you guys are not friends or different things like that, like, she did not come home, like, and I'm pretty,
Mhm.
and it sounds like somebody was close enough to get in contact with the mother, to know the mother, to talk to the parent, like, it seems like there's some level of, like, relationship or cultivation there, to where they could have that conversation and at least lie. Like, I mean, like, it's it's sad to say, because there's, like, and I think you said this too when you read it, there was no signs of, alcohol poisoning or anything like that in her system when they did, take a look at it. It was due to the spinal injury and things like that. So it's like,
Mhm.
that's a pure lie. Like, so it's like, how did you even muster up that courage to get up there and to, say that to a mother, who has no idea, who, like, it's just it's
And then you
extremely insensitive.
and then just to add, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you,
Mhm.
Brandon, but
Okay.
just to add, so you say that's like telling someone, oh, your child, died of alcohol poisoning or a drug overdose, as if that person is so irresponsible that they're going to drink themselves excessively to where they die from it. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
as if that person was some, not to
Uh,
assume, but
mhm.
that there was some alcoholism involved, or there was a lack of restraint on them, that
Mhm.
they, so I think it even plays into blaming her for
Yeah,
even her own death,
for
which
sure.
I think was really, really wrong,
Mhm. And it's like, and I'm wondering if they, like, if that route was taken because they're out of town and they are drinking, like, like, we're here to have fun, yada yada yada. And it's like, alcohol poisoning, things happen. Not to the point to where anyone like dies. And even in that aspect, again, as a friend unit, if I am in Mexico, I'm in Cabo, wherever I am, and I've had too much to drink, like, as a friend, like, thank you, you've had enough, sis. Like, let's
Yeah,
scoop this on.
we're
Like,
gonna
it's
we're
just
gonna go sit you in the room, right?
it's just, I mean, and I think, I don't know if that's like her unfortunate death is, like, very, like, daunting to me. But it's like, I think, again, like, that relationship, like you say, a friend is, like, thrown around just too loosely. But it's like, I couldn't imagine, like, being around people who I would, trust with my protection, or just trust with, anything in that aspect. And I think that that's just one of the mutual exchanges of having a friend. Friends are like chosen family. These are the people that you do talk to about things you wouldn't tell your blood, relatives and things like that. If not, So it's like, how can I not, or have that guard down? When I'm with you on vacation, we're supposed to have fun. Like, I think that would be, like, just second nature. But I think that the story kind of, I mean, at least it woke me up in that aspect to kind of have those conversations and that thought, like, what does that safety look like? Like, what does that safety look like within my friend group? But also, like, I mean, how do we go about these things? And even how do we handle our relationships and our conversations if we do have a disagreement and things like that? Like, I can imagine putting my hands really on nobody, but definitely not one of my friends. Like, how? Can't
Yeah,
imagine
I
it.
mean, I think even, and I'll just say this kind of just my own opinion, but
Mhm.
even as gay people or people within the gay community, there could be kind of a level of like being friends with people and there's like a level of cattiness, within the friend group, or, we have to say a lot of slights towards each other. It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of shady comments all the time. And it's like, I'm at a place where I don't have the ability to be on guard like that all the time
Speak
with
on it.
people. Yeah, like I don't
Mhm.
I don't want to be toe to toe with you all the time
Mhm.
just for me to be able to get you off of me,
Mhm.
verbally because
Mhm.
it's just that attitude, that energy that you have to kind of deal with some people, not all, of course.
Mhm.
But I don't want that. I want my friends to be easy. I want us to know that we're at least providing a level of safety for each other. If that's emotionally,
Mhm.
that's of course when you're in each other's presence, but also that
Mhm.
I know that you're not gonna do any harm to me in any way, not just physically, but just how you treat me, how you talk to me,
Right.
which I think is
Mhm.
important. So
Mhm.
um, I think the good thing out of the one good thing is that this story is causing a lot of conversations
Mhm.
about, how what about your friends? Like the old TLC
Mhm.
song, like,
Right. Mhm.
what about them? Are they really there for you? Are they people that are going to look out for you and be there when you're down?
Mhm. For sure. And I think even as you kind of bring up just being Black and queer and different things like that, and the friendship groups that I've seen, and also the representation on television. Like I've,
Right.
watching Bad Girls Club was a thing growing up, to the point to where our lovely Zeus channel, and I say lovely very sarcastically, I'm sorry, but Zeus, even like For the Love of Bobby, like there is literally, I haven't seen the show, but if you're on Twitter, you see everything. So it's like it seems like there's a fight every week. Like it's like every week there's a fight. And some of those people claim to be friends, and even though they met momentarily or just recently. And some of them, claim not to be. But even outside of like that, like, some of the things that you see, around I think Atlanta Club, the club scene, Baltimore club scene, different things like that. There are some crazy, like just crazy altercations that I feel like if anybody has like a regard for life, if anybody has a regard
Mhm.
for the next person, there's some form of understanding we can get to before throwing chairs at each other,
Right.
before trying to break a bottle and trying to, like, or even like you said, even being sassy, like, or even like having you want to hit me below the belt type of thing. Like,
Right.
no, we just like it's a conversation. And if I do have to remove myself, that is fine. I will go, or we will go. We don't have to revisit this. I don't have to cross your way, you don't have to cross my way. But for people to be harmed and to essentially not come home, it's a
Right.
problem. Huge
Yeah.
problem. Huge
Yeah.
problem.
And you touch on something, Brandon, too. And I think about how we don't have a lot of, or when I say we, I'm talking very generally, but just overall for anyone that wants to split hairs, just in terms
Mhm,
of how do we resolve conflict without
mhm.
violence?
Yeah.
You
Mhm,
know, and
mhm,
and does someone have to be physically harmed for you to feel that you won? And if we are debating or arguing, like, why are we arguing to win something,
mhm, mhm,
I think some of that like has to be deciphered. I think a lot of reality show culture of people
mhm,
throwing drinks in people's faces and flipping up the tables and grabbing you and all, like, that's become a normal thing,
mhm.
and both sides, like, there's no resolution. They just had an altercation and
That's
someone
it.
wants to fight, but there wasn't the
There's
fight really
no
had
solution.
nothing of resolution to the whole
None.
situation that caused the fight.
Mhm,
People are just now deeper steeped in how way that they feel, and that they
mhm,
have to be right about this, even if they're wrong or whatever. No, like, maybe I should consider what this other person is saying, or maybe I did do them harm, or I can apologize to them and
mhm,
not feel like that's going to hinder my ego or make me feel like I failed at something or I've lost something. I
mhm.
really wish that we could kind of get to a better place with that, because there's always going to be conflict and confrontations, but we have to
For
know how to
sure.
resolve those things, even with
Mhm,
friends, like being able to talk to people and say, hey, like, this, you're my friend. You did something that harmed me, or I didn't like what you did, or here's
Mhm.
why. And is that person going to be open to you sharing that with them? And how do they take that without taking it negative, or taking it personal, or lashing
Mhm.
back out at you, and you trying
Yeah.
to figure out, how do you manage a friendship like that? And should you walk away from a friendship?
Mhm.
That I want
Mhm.
to ask you that, Brandon. When should you walk away,
Um,
in your opinion?
in my opinion, I think when I wouldn't say all options have been exhausted, because I don't think that that's necessarily. I don't think you have to get to that point. I think that if it necessarily, like, if this is just not working for you, I'm stewarded into, like, say, like, okay, like, let's have this conversation. Let's try this. Let's try that. That's me. But
Mhm.
even in that fashion, I know that there has been times where I could have done more, and I'm just like, I don't feel it at this moment.
Right.
So with this, I love you enough to say, like, let me just walk this way.
Mhm.
And different things like that. And, like, I will always, like, have a regard for who you are, or different things like that. I mean, I just don't believe in really, like, even being violent in a verbal way to, like, we're not friends. Oh, my French, me and that bitch ain't cool. No, like, we're fine. Like, hey, he's over there, I'm over here. Life is
Right.
continuing, that type of thing. I wish you the best, or maybe I don't wish you the best, but you'll never know. Like, it's just, we've made our lines. But I think that when when it's time to walk away, I think it's when you've made that decision, and I think it's harder to do than to kind of make that decision yourself and things like that,
Mhm.
especially when it's someone that you really care so deeply for. When you said, you know what, I've done what I can. I handled, situations how I've handled them, whether you agree or disagree. But this relationship is not feeding me in a way that I can necessarily stay and be comfortable. And I got to do what I got to do to, be comfortable and be safe and different things like that. And it could be momentarily or it could be forever. So I would just say, basically, when you feel like you're uncomfortable and that you've done your part, and things aren't, where they need to be, or enough for you to be comfortable with that person, or to, have what you had, different things like that. Like, let's call it, a dub, and say we've done what we've done here. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Brandon, you bring up such a good point, because I think a lot of it, and it's such an old saying. I don't think I even understood it until I got older, when they say you have to love yourself first,
Mhm.
and you really have to make yourself your best friend,
Mhm.
and you have to be okay if, like, you have to treat yourself better than anyone else does. That's my
Right.
opinion.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you also have to show people what you are willing to tolerate and what you aren't, even
Mhm.
within the boundaries of your friendship. You have to have boundaries for those, for the friendships too, relationships, all that. And if you're willing to let someone harm you just for the sake of their friendship, it's asking a broader question. How do you feel about yourself, that you're
Mhm.
willing to let someone harm you just so you can continue something with them? I had to
Mhm.
personally, I had to end a very close relationship that I had with one of my relatives. And
Same.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I, uh, it's a long story, certainly, but I did
Mhm.
try to reach out after we had
Mhm.
stopped talking. And even just out of love, I just said, oh, well, if I didn't feel like I was in any way someone that did harm, but I wanted to call so I could at least get their perspective. And I
Mhm.
said, you know what, I'm sorry. Sorry. You can apologize to someone and not lose anything. It's not
Mhm.
something that you have to be like, well, I'm never saying sorry. Well, why? We all
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
mistakes. But
Mhm.
this person was unwilling to even acknowledge their own harm towards me.
Mhm.
And when that happened, I was like, well, if I were to continue a relationship with you, it would only mean that I'm okay with you behaving
Mhm.
this way. And I'm going to
Mhm.
you're asking me to give you leeway to
To
behave in any way that you want.
come
And
on.
I can't do that. I
Mhm.
have to,
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
I'm my best friend first. The best
Yeah.
relationship that I have is with me. And if me isn't okay with the situation, then I have to walk away
Mhm,
from it because I have to save myself first over anyone else.
mhm. And I think, and just speaking in that same frame, because we kind of went from friendship to, I think, family. It's so funny.
Mm,
I've recently I have just kind of parted ways with family members in that aspect. And one, there's two things I kind of take away. And one, I just, heard you say. But the first one that I kind of realized was that in family, there is this thing where because we're bonded by blood, you don't necessarily
yes.
understand what it's like to cultivate anything with them. Like it's like they're kind of
Mhm.
eschewing or they're kind of like blessed into your life. So they kind of get
Yes.
everything automatically. And it's like when I look back after like, our this falling out and things like that, I'm like, I don't think they've ever really earned my trust ever. I just think because we were family, they automatically got it.
It's crazy. And
And like, how
Brandon,
crazy is that?
and my mother, and I love my mom, she's
Mhm.
wonderful, but she was like,
Oh,
oh, y'all be okay. Y'all get back and
fix it.
just forgive, just fix it. That's it, just fix it.
Okay.
And I had to tell her, I said, no, like I can't continue this because if I
Mhm,
do, I'm only going to be agreeing to being harmed. I'm
mhm,
only going to be agreeing to this person feeling they can do whatever they want to do without any
mhm,
consequence in terms of how I
mhm,
feel. And I
mhm,
can't sustain a relationship like that. And
mhm,
she and my mother was like, on like after a few conversations, she was
mhm,
like, I
mhm.
understand, because
See?
after you get past the whole we blood, we family part, okay, well, beyond that,
What else do we have?
blood should be the I mean, it should be the reason that you treat someone really good, right? Because
Right.
they're your
Uh-huh.
family.
Uh-huh.
Not,
Uh-huh.
oh, you're gonna just deal with any kind of shit I throw at you, and you have to deal with it because I'm your family.
Mhm, mhm. No, for sure, for sure. That was like the biggest, like, I think, aha out of the whole situation. Like, there's a lot that went into, like you said, long story, don't have to go there. But the biggest one was, I was like, man, like, I think just because we were bonded by blood and different things like that, there was love in the room that was just, there without, like I said, building or different things like that. And when you see, like I said, your chosen family, your friends, and different things like that, where those were, just made. Like my friends, we're now going on the ones that I have from high school, I think 15 years or so, different things like that. And it's like we've been through, a couple of us have been through everything, and we've had to have these different conversations. I think with that specific family member, it's like we've gone through things too, but we've never had a conversation that I felt that, both sides are like, we did this, we did that. How do we mend this from there?
Mhm.
And how do we really cultivate
Right.
something to build to become stronger? And that aspect, but I think it just always came down to like, we family, it's dirt, it's dust. Like clearly it's not. Like so it's like it's that was the thing. And I think recently what you just shared, gosh, I feel like I just lose it that quick. But what you shared just recently, God, I left out the tip of my tongue. It's okay though. I won't continue to go.
Okay.
But it was an
It's
enlightening
gonna
thing. It will
well, I
probably.
mean, it will. I mean, about because you notice a transition about friendships to family, but
Mhm,
I would say any relationship certainly
for sure.
is some. I mean, we can't have relationships that are unhealthy and justify them because they're
Mhm,
a partner or boyfriend girlfriend
right.
because of longevity. Oh, well, that's been your best friend since y'all were X
Mhm,
amount of age or whatever. Like people change, people grow, people evolve in other ways that
mhm,
sometimes counteract to who you are and your principles as a person. And it's okay to
mhm,
be willing to say, we've had a great number of years together.
mhm,
And I still have pictures of my relative throughout my house. Like the
mhm,
love is still there because it wasn't like we had a bad, everything was bad. I love those
mhm,
moments of that person that we shared,
mhm,
right? I don't have to be resentful or I'm a burn the pit. Like I in those moments, we
mhm,
loved each other. It was great. But
mhm,
as of right now, we can't have a relationship, and that's okay,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah, it literally just came back to me as you said that. Uh, I think that in my going back to I think my issue when I was with my family recently, it took that form of like abuse or that issue that was reoccurring in our relationship to extend to someone else in my family, and it got really bigger, it got bigger, right? And
Mm,
at that moment um, I don't know how to explain this besides saying it got to my mother. So I was like, in that moment, it's my mom. Like, I'm not gonna let nobody like, treat my mom any type of way. But it's like, dang, I did not take a stance for this when it was happening to me.
Mm,
Years and several times, several times before it, got to this front door here. So it's like how, like, I don't know, I guess, well, a couple years ago, life just changed. And I think I'm just getting older too. At the same time, I'm just starting to realize things. But I wish I realized sooner that, loving yourself and choosing yourself, being your own best friend is how you can ultimately make these decisions that are that are more healthy or that are in, favor of you versus, like you said, the friend that you've had for 10 plus years or this relationship of family bonding and different things like that. Like, other than that, like, you're still left with a person treating you bad if they're still treating you bad at the end of the day. So it's like, I second that motion there, like, completely, because it literally, like, it took somebody else to treat my mother really bad. And that was the same, like, nothing was different. Nothing was different.
and see, Brandon, this is something that I've had to learn. I've learned I have to fight for myself
Hmm.
as much
Hmm.
or more so than I would fight for anyone else.
Come on,
Because
yes,
no one's
yes.
gonna fight for me. Like,
Hmm.
not to say that I
Hmm.
don't have help or I don't have support. Like I do have all those things, but I mean, like, depending on who I choose to be in relationship with, who I choose to share my life experiences with, friendship, romantic, whatever, like, if I don't position myself in a way that establishes a level of respect for my boundaries and what I feel is going to be a safe interaction with
Hmm.
me, no one's going to do that for me because they'll be like,
Hmm.
oh, well, Philip hanging out with these people, that's, like, that's his choice.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or he's in this kind of relationship that, that's on him. So I feel like we have to really make sure that we show up and not just assume that we automatically have safety in some of these spaces, in some
Hmm.
of our relationships, because sometimes we really don't.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. I think it's just really important. But I also think it's just super important to not well, excuse me. I think it's important to fight for others,
Hmm.
right? But I also think it's very, very important to fight for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I think that I've learned that recently, within this and also other situations. But this one was the one, like, I was like, you know, like, one, I don't think just because they're a family, I don't think that they've ever earned or really knew what it meant to actually, like, I think, love me or understand me. I think we just had that bond because we're a family. And two, why did it take all of this? And it's just, like I said, it happened countless, but nothing changed about the approach, the way things happened. Like, it has happened to me countless of times before. I was like, oh, enough is enough. And it ended with my mother. Like,
Mhm.
no, like, you should be choosing yourself in that aspect. You should be understanding, and holding people accountable too. And if they are real people, like, if those are people who want to be there, I believe, in life and different things like that, you hold someone accountable. Like you say, like, you're my friend, I love you, but you hurt me.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot more that comes out of that besides, another fuck you. So it's like, it just is. It is what it is. Like, so I mean, gosh, but funny enough, I know we talked about all this and it's super necessary, but I do hope that the FBI gets on the case and really figure out what happened um to that young lady. That's just, I mean, it's crazy sad. And I know that that's like even a trend right now. I wouldn't say a trend, but everybody in my circle is turning 30. I don't turn 30 for a couple more years, but everybody's turning 30 this year. I mean, whatever. I can't wait to turn 30. I can't wait. Everybody's like, why are you saying that? I can't. Like, every show that I've ever watched is like around this age range. And it's like, there's just like an ascension I feel that's gonna happen, or that has happened for all these characters. I'm just waiting for my turn. But like, everybody's turning 30 and everybody wants to go out the country, like, literally everybody. And I'm like, I don't know why y'all think I'm gonna spend 10K of my salary to just, I don't know. We'll figure that out. But at the same time, everyone wants to do, these different trips and stuff like that to celebrate themselves. And I think that this article has brought up just a larger conversation within that space, to see, what does safety look like? Are we gonna have a one band, one sound type of thing? Like, we need to establish this
Mhm.
now before we go out and different things like that. So yeah, I think that, like I said, it's a little bit of a trend, and I think a lot of people are doing that, and it's great. We want to see the world, we want to travel and things like that, but we do have a life to get back to. Everybody deserves to get back to their life too. And we just need to ensure that for each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Maybe like when it comes to birthdays and celebrations and all these different occasions, I feel that a lot of folks are do a grand gesture about them because they feel that's expected. Like it's your birthday, you should be doing so and so. You should be, you know, doing something extravagant, having a big party,
Hmm.
and whatever your birthday is, maybe it's going to the movies, maybe it's taking yourself to
Hmm.
dinner, maybe it's just hanging with a small group of friends. Maybe it isn't always having to like turn up, have alcohol, have this, have that, just for you to
Hmm.
have a good time.
Hmm.
Even though I'm I'm very much past 30. I'm knocking on the other decade in a couple years.
Hmm.
But I think as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's very important to um, seek peace as much as possible
Mm.
and to minimize a lot of risk, because
Hmm.
just like with anything, any situation, anything can happen. People go to a vacation where you don't expect to not be injured. You expect to be in a level of comfort so you can have fun and come back home.
Hmm.
So I've realized, so I don't do a lot of dangerous driving. I don't ride in the car with people that drive reckless. I don't
Hmm.
do a lot of heavy drinking when I'm out, like because I know that I'm responsible for me, and essentially my actions could potentially impose or impact someone else's.
Hmm.
But I think when it comes to whatever you want to do, if you're the turn up kind of person, do it. That's fine.
Hmm.
But maybe even just exploring other options that maybe allow for you to be reflective for your birthday, or maybe you can write down your goals for your upcoming birthday, or you can think about ways that, you know, to show appreciation to others or whatever. I know I'm kind of all over here, but I think everyone having to do this big grand gesture for your birthday, for some it makes sense, sure, but that isn't always something that's required, and the pressure to
Hmm.
do that isn't always coming from a healthy place.
Yeah. I think even when you kind of think about that, of just like doing having other avenues of like celebrate, I think that also changes like what does celebrating look like? Like what are you celebrating really? You know what I'm saying? Like, and also
Right.
yeah, like what are you really celebrating? But also having those moments to celebrate that, like what are you doing to, I think, enrich that moment or to enrich yourself in that aspect. Like I do like parties, and I love to host and things like that. But I always kind of try to take a moment to reflect on the last year, or even if it's a milestone. Like I know 30, somehow I'm gonna try to retract the last 10 years. Like I don't know how, because it's gonna be like Snapchat and Facebook will be a lot of help. But I have to have that, I think, moment of reflection and different things just to see where has Brandon been and where's Brandon going, in that aspect.
Mhm.
So it's like I think that when people kind of get a little bit lost in the sauce with the grand birthdays, like it's great to celebrate. And I think that all of that comes from a culture of just wanting to have more love and different things like that, and to be I wouldn't say praised. What's a good word besides praised? But just uplifted for such milestones and things like that. It's like, but you got to do that for yourself. I think everything kind of goes back to you doing it for yourself. So
Yeah.
I'm happy you kind of centered that within this conversation. So I think it's just getting brighter every time. I think I notice like, okay, there's certain things you don't want to do, and there's certain things you do want to do. There's certain things that need to be said, but what is that going to do for you? How are you going to feel? And that's just what's important. So yeah, I love that. I love that. But yes, everybody
Well,
deserves to go home after vacation. So I hope everything goes accordingly for this investigation and things.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll be staying close to the story as updates
Yeah.
and things are provided. In fact, we'll probably include this in maybe our next upcoming episode. As we talk about friends and friendship, I want to thank Brandon and Isaac King. I know Isaac is out. Our thoughts are with Isaac
Hmm.
as he's dealing with some things with his family. But
Hmm.
I just want to say that I care about both you guys so much, and I really appreciate that we've been able to do this podcast and stay in touch with each other and share some
Hmm.
great perspective and have a nice space where we can talk and talk about things that are on our minds and on our hearts, and it means a lot. So I just wanted to put that out there. For anyone out there, certainly have a great friend, tell them that you love them, tell them that they're amazing, tell them that they're great, that you
That they're
appreciate their
safe.
friendship, that they're safe, that you're here for them, that they're here for you. Like, I feel like, maybe we can just do a little bit more of that. But yeah, I thought this was a wonderful discussion. Anyone that watched this, feel free to put any comments down in the chat box. We'd love to hear your voice, your thoughts about this as well. But yeah, Brandon, any other thoughts before we wrap?
No, I do think this is a great conversation. And again, I'm just gonna reiterate since you did it too. This has been, it's been so promising, I think, to see us have dialogue like this, I think, or even just us getting, I think, closer through this level of work and things like that. Because I mean, like I said, just being able to be Brandon the intern back in the day and kind of see you all do these different things or talk or have spaces like that. It's just fun and it's great to be included in that level of like, discussion and like weaving. And I think we just get to know each other in a different way every day. So I appreciate it and I love y'all too. But I also love all of us listeners and everyone as well. So yeah, that's definitely tea. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Just sending out positivity to everyone out there. Thanks for all
yeah.
who watched. Again, feel free to follow us, follow the show, subscribe, add your comments, and we will be back soon with some more content.
Yes, we will.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.